Is there such thing as good and bad foods? If you would like to hear my perspective, this is the video for you. Do you label foods as good foods or bad foods? Now, most people that have been on a diet will readily be able to label foods under two main categories. Good, virtuous, slimming, allowed, right foods, and bad, forbidden, wrong, fattening, devil incarnate foods. This is an issue. The very nature of diets has trained us to think of the foods that are allowed as good foods and to think of the foods that aren't allowed as bad foods, because they supposedly make us gain weight or cause all sorts of health conditions. This has even started to extend into healthy eating plans, with words such as clean, green, natural, and even the word healthy itself being used. Let's play a game. I'll say the name of a food and you tell me as to whether it's good or bad. And you're more than welcome to play this game with friends. I could use the views. Apple, chips, bread, cheese, ice cream, broccoli. I have some bad news, because if you were able to label any of them good or bad, you lost. At the end of the day, when we use these types of words to label our foods, we are placing a moral judgment on the foods that we eat. And the truth is that when it comes to virtues and morals, food is just food. Food didn't betray anyone. Food never stole anyone's TV. Moralizing food is based on someone's set of rules, not facts. Now, what is so bad about using good and bad food labels? The slippery slope of labeling our foods is that we start to label ourselves. We are either good for sticking to the rules, or we are bad for not. Now, I'm sure you're no stranger to the kinds of self-talk that happens when you eat bad food. It's all negative and shaming. Conversely, when we eat the right things, we often start to feel a little virtuous. Either way, we are defining our worth by the foods we eat. Again, huge issue. When we think of foods either good or bad, they either become allowed or forbidden. And I'm sure we all know as to what happens when we think of things as forbidden. They become desirable. And what happens when we're told we can't have these forbidden things? We want them even more. In my experience, one of the biggest drivers for emotional and out of control eating is deprivation. And a lot of this deprivation stems from not being allowed certain foods. Now, I'm sure you're no stranger to the power that food, particularly bad food, tends to have when you are on a diet. Now, let's talk the diet cycle and bad foods. Firstly, before the diet starts, there might be some indulgence in the forbidden foods, because soon they'll be off the menu. Cue some Last Supper style eating. Not ideal, because you're actually creating more work for both yourself and your coach. Then Monday comes along and the diet starts. At first, things are going well, but eventually you start thinking more about these bad foods. And the more you think about them, well, the more you think about them. You try to stick to the good foods for as long as you can, but one day it all just gets too much. Life happens and you can't be good anymore. Now, depending on your style, this may end in a small indulgence or an all-out binge. You will inevitably start beating yourself up for being bad, and the guilt train rolls into town. You vow that next time you'll be good. Does this sound familiar? You are not alone. And the good news is you can take some simple steps towards change and ditch the good food, bad food mentality. So what can you do? Ditch the moral Latin labels. Food didn't murder anyone or steal anyone's TV. It is neither good or bad. If you must use a label, try every day and sometimes. Kind of like a rebrand, if you will. Because as you understand, given the videos I've made on this in the past, a calorie is not just a calorie, and some foods are definitely more nutritious than others. Now, is that to say that provided your calories are controlled, there is a more efficient way of addressing your weight loss content ambitions? No. But will eating more nutritious foods ensure that you are healthy and likely leave you feeling better than you would provided you would derive those same calories from foods that aren't all that nutritious? Yes. And stop restricting foods. As I said, no food is good nor bad. The second you realize this, the second you will realize that you can eat whatever you want whilst dieting, provided you do not exceed the calories you have been prescribed, that you understand are going to result in weight loss, because doing that will compromise your progress. But you can very well exceed that intake with chicken and broccoli, and that will still compromise your progress also. By removing this good and bad label and no longer perceiving certain foods as forbidden, you are not going to feel deprived and crave that food to the same degree. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this video useful.